Welcome to Auburn-Opelika Rider Spotlight, sponsored by Trek of Auburn. I'm Ben Vanslander, the owner of Trek, and today we have Brandon Hamilton here to talk about his cycling journey. So Brandon, how did you get into biking? I know a little bit of your story because we ride together and I kind of know a little bit of where you're at now, but tell us how you got into it.
I started mountain biking a few years ago, and I was on a really, really old, rickety 26-inch hardtail that was like 4 sizes too small for me, and I couldn't have fun. And I was like, man, mountain biking really sucks, dude. Like, I had rim brakes, so like I was constantly like crashing and stuff, and everybody had these nice bikes, and I was like, man, I don't like this. So I put it down, put it away, and then 3 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy one of those like real mountain bikes or whatever, and give it another go. So decided to try it again.
Awesome. Okay. So that part of your journey, and then now getting back in, when you were 3 years ago, when you were getting back into mountain biking, what was your first bike? Getting back into it.
Getting back into it. Ooh, this is kind of embarrassing. The first bike I bought when I decided to just like ride bikes again was like a bike from Academy. And having just said like, yeah, we're gonna buy like a real mountain bike and a more upscale bike, I didn't know, I still didn't know, what level of bike you really needed to be safe on.
Okay.
So I buy a bike from Academy and it breaks and almost kills me. Then I doubled down on bad decisions and bought a Mongoose from Walmart.
Okay.
And that tore up on me. And then it was at that point I was like, I'm tired of this. Like, I'm gonna go look at a Trek. And so, boom, there we go with a Trek Marlin 6.
And that's actually when you and I first met. You came into the store to look at mountain bikes.
I test rode it once and I was like, I can't go back to a department store bike now. Like,
yeah, okay. Well, what was funny about that meeting we had was meeting you for the first time, your enthusiasm of getting back into biking. And then once you actually started riding the bike and going out to Chihuahua, how much enthusiasm and how much fun you were having and how big you were getting into enjoy riding at that time.
Yeah, the people who ride at Chihuahua are super, super inclusive and welcoming and kind of help guide you. I remember one time riding and someone behind me being like, hey, you need to move your seat up like half an inch. And I was like, huh? Like, in my mind, I was like, well, what's that gonna matter? I did it, and instantly I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And so the cycling community out at Chihuahua and stuff, they pick people up and help them along pretty fast.
Okay. And from that, you started learning between the riding community, coming to our shop. I know you used to hang out here, get your bike worked on, and then you start learning a little bit more about the bike itself, like your setup, what you like, and...
Yeah, it's just a path to bike snobdom. You buy a bike, you start riding, and then like at some point you start doing things that you're like, you're like, I would never do that. I would never buy those merino wool racing socks. They can't be that much better than my cotton socks. And then the first time you put on something like that, you use it, you're like, okay, everyone else is using this for a reason. Like maybe tubeless is real. Maybe it's actually useful. Yeah,
for some people it works. Some things don't work for you or don't work for me, but for other people they do, which is the great thing about it. Like, I ride in casual clothes. You normally ride in casual clothes, and some people like full kits. Some people don't. So it's unique in that sense that
if your legs are moving fast enough to wear kit, I get it, but mine aren't. So I can wear jorts.
Yeah, I gotcha. I can't imagine. So what is one of your favorite cycling stories, or maybe one of your favorite trips? Or, you and I ride quite a bit together, and one of our things we like to do is what we call exploring or adventure riding, as I maybe call it, when you do one of your famous routes and we end up going off on a crazy adventure. But what's something that stands out to you that was fun or maybe not so fun, but was a story?
The first time bike packing. I mean, the first time bike packing is the craziest time of your life, because you're on a bike and just being like, okay, I'm traveling now, but I'm doing it on this, and I'm wearing this weird pair of shorts with a giant pad on my tailbone.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of beef jerky in my bag. What is this? And you are a rolling tent.
Yeah.
You know, just exploring, and it's pretty unique, all the different disciplines that you get into. And then you try to spread your peanut butter too thin like I do, and you're never really like quote unquote good at any of it. You just partake in all of it.
There you go.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so one story that stands out to me, just because you and I were on a trip together.
I forgot to tell a story, didn't I?
That's okay, but one that stands out to me, and you can elaborate on it because we were both there, is our first campsite on the trip that we were on, the first night in a sketchy campground, almost scared to death we're going to get eaten by a bear or robbed, maybe.
We didn't see a human being for like probably 6 or 8 hours, maybe one guy in a Jeep that rode by or something. And I was ahead of a couple of you, and so and the road just went on. So I was like, I think I'm free and clear to like let them do what they're doing and then meet up with me. And so I'm going across this bridge into the campground, and there's this dude with a hiking stick, a sun hat, and some sunglasses on. I was like, hey, look, a human being. He's not even on a bike. This is weird. And so like as I'm rolling up to him, I was like, hey, how you doing? He goes, ah! And I almost fell off my bike. I'm like, there's nothing keeping you from going into the water. And I'm on the edge of it, and this guy screams at me at the top of his lungs. I was like, what the hell? You know, and that should have told me right there, hey, maybe we should keep going. But we were tired and hungry. So we stopped there and had the most terrifying night of sleep imaginable.
Yeah, that was a little uneasy. You in a hammock, me in my tent.
Was it the bear or the noises?
For me, it was the bear.
For me, it was the noises. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I don't know what that is. I'm not a Boy Scout. Just chupacabra, maybe? I don't know.
Basically, just leave each other for dead. Stay quiet, leave each other for dead.
That was the game plan. It's just like, let's see what happens.
We made it then.
And I don't know. Maybe we'll both be here in the morning.
Didn't lock our bikes up or anything. I
You're
can't believe they're there.
You're always going to hear 108 tooth engagement hub, though.
Yeah.
You know, if you're having a dream and you hear that sound,
you're going to wake up
waking
instantly.
up. But wait a minute,
you
what
would
is
have been
that?
out of that hammock like that, grabbing your bike.
That's a high engagement hub. That's my bike.
So that was a fun trip. That was a good one. Okay, so one of the other questions that we are going to normally ask is, why do you ride a bike?
It's a lot faster than walking. Low impact, and if you weigh a lot like I do, it helps. You know, it's much better than hurting your knees.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fun.
Heavier, it's fun.
I remember my first time riding a bike. So my dad came home from third shift or second shift, whatever it was. He got home at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and my mom's like, hey, your dad's up at the shop. He's got something for you. I was like, all right, cool. And so I go up there, and there's a small black bicycle with white plastic wheels, and my dad sends me down the road on training wheels, and then I come back, and he was like, you me take those off. And I was like, yeah. And so he let me make one more, pass without it, and after that, you couldn't get me off a bike.
Never look back.
It's just a great way to take a kid with ADHD that you want to tone down. You put them on a bike, and they just burn all their energy. Now I don't have enough of it.
So now looking towards what you're riding now, from you and I knowing each other and riding together, one thing I know is your routes. You're a route planner. So you do a lot with some really great, we're going to call them routes, gravel, road, adventure rides. And I know just some of those you're really enthusiastic about putting together some really good rides that we use with groups or just yourself or you and I or getting people together. So how did you get interested in the route building aspect of connecting all these gravel roads together?
I think if you look at like how the trails are built, like at Chihuahua State Park or Standing Boy or any of these places, you can kind of see that someone built something and then someone was like, hey, this is fun. But then after maybe like 4 or 5 times of doing it, they're like, what if we added this? What if we added that? And the rides became longer, there became more sights to see, et cetera, et cetera. And like, you know, if you go to gravelmap.com, which is what I use, like those guys are, come on, that's such a great like resource to have. And I zoomed out and I just couldn't help but connect the lines. I was like, hey, wait a minute, those 2 gravel roads are really close to each other, and those are, oh, that's a really long, big, you know, road, a big nest of roads right here. And so it became opening Gravel Map, zooming in, locating something, and then going to Google Maps, opening it up on satellite, zooming in to see if a bridge is out or something.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't do that. we
experience that.
We roll up
and you know what's
hey,
funny?
There's no bridge.
Is your first thing was, grab your bike, maybe we can walk across that tree over there, or can we wade across the... saw a path.
Because there was gravel on the other side of that bridge, and I was like, I want to ride my bike on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I got into it, was just being very spur of the moment and just really getting into it. And then I started building routes in Laverne, Alabama, and I was like, why are you doing this? You're not driving to Laverne, Alabama, where there's probably more gravel than anywhere else in the state of Alabama, and no one rides it because there's zero resources out there.
That's what you mentioned before.
There's nothing out there. So if you go, you better, like, it's some wilderness packing. Like, you better bring a backpack and a lot of beef jerky.
What's your favorite, like a route that I'm going to say you or the groups ride consistently? What's one of your favorite rides you do on gravel right now that's your go-to or to get out?
The Salem route that I put together, after putting it together, I was like, man, this is a good one. And then after everybody else started riding it too, and they liked it. Like, I was like, okay, cool. I did something right, you know, because that is the coolest thing about building routes, is sharing them with people. And then, like, you might see somebody like ride it or whatever on Strava and you're like, cool, awesome. That's more places for someone to take their bike and see things.
Yeah. So you're talking that leaves from the post office.
The post office one is the more fun one.
Yeah.
The other one is pretty good too, I think. Man, you have to start climbing fast.
Yeah, there's no warm up on that one. But that Salem one that you did mention is one of my favorites too. That's a good group one, and you can ride it when it's wet. So that was a good route.
20 easy miles.
20 easy miles.
15 easy miles and 5 really, really hard ones.
All the climbing's in the end. So with all your riding, and we know you get out with groups, what do you like best about the Auburn-Opelika riding community and the groups, and what do you experience with the groups you've ridden with?
I would say that I like the sense of community with the Auburn-Opelika cycling community. You can really just fall in to any group at any time, having never ridden with them or that area or whatever. And I'd say, like, 99.9% of rides that you're going to go on around here are no drop, and people want to make sure you make it to the end or get whatever help you need. So, and I don't think people are that aware of that outside of that community. So as we bring people in and stuff and they learn about that kind of thing, it's pretty cool for them to know that, you know, like, hey, you can come out and try this, and people are going to help you.
And then, so a lot that we hear at the shop is, you know, with Auburn and people wanting to go on routes, maybe some are concerned about, they want to be safe. So one thing, you know, some of the routes are more rider friendly through the neighborhoods, maybe away more from the main streets, is what we see with some of the groups. Not to mention, there's the gravel groups, there's the mountain bike groups, so it's not just limited to one road group or anything like that. And you ride with quite a few groups. So do you feel like, from a rider standpoint, they make it as safe as they can with the area that we have?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that like makes me think of is if you show up to a ride around here and you don't have a helmet on, people are gonna kind of be like, "Hey, this, we don't really do that." Like everybody will have a helmet on. Anybody that rides regularly with the groups is gonna wear a helmet because, I guess when you're growing up, helmets aren't cool. But then when you grow up and you start riding a bike, like helmets are very cool. They're extremely in style this year,
Yeah, definitely.
So it's cool that everyone. I always wanted to wear. I was going to wear a helmet regardless, but it was reassuring to see everybody else wearing them too.
Yeah, I mean, you would even wear a helmet climbing Cheehaw in 110-degree weather, wouldn't you?
I wouldn't want to, but I have, and.
All right. If there was improvements that you think could be made in the Auburn-Opelika cycling community, is there anything that you would like to see, or help from the city to make it, any changes?
I think I've said this a few times, but I think that multi-use paths throughout the city in certain areas could be pretty beneficial to, not only who you want to quote unquote say are cyclists, but also to commuters, college kids, etc. But I mean, if you go to downtown and park and you see people riding around on bikes, they're not riding, Madones. They're riding like some beat up Rock Hopper or Trek 3700 or something. And so if there were more paths to get through and commute and get around, I mean, they could get away with just using, fine gravel, and then I could ride on it too.
So you're thinking like utilitarian, like people, I mean, if you think about college students are using bikes for dual purpose, transportation to class and going to ride on the weekends. I mean, we see a lot of that. So connecting neighborhoods, for families and a way to get around.
And people want cyclists off the road.
Yeah, that's true.
You're gonna have to delete that part.
Yeah, you're gonna have to tune that one out. It's gotta make the blooper reel.
You gotta make the blooper reel.
All right. So, Brandon, tell us about your bike.
It's a Trek Roscoe 9.
Hardtail.
Hardtail.
Only way to go.
It's got a dropper and a really good ringer on there.
Well, the belt's the most important part of a bike.
It's safety related.
Being solid.
It lets people know you're on the trail, or hikers, you're coming up, which they can only hear it if you're 2 feet away. So you gotta get right up on them, bing, 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 bing,
So what's your, from accessory standpoint, fork-wise, this is spec'd stock?
Pretty close.
What'd you change on it?
I put handlebars on it, grips and pedals. I think that's it. And then drop the tire size down from a 2.6 to a 2.4.
Why'd you do that?
I wanted to go faster, and it was really hard with 2.6s.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. Really cushy, but a lot of work.
So recently you've been riding a full suspension a little bit on the side, and then coming back to your Roscoe, and we're coming to find that you're a hardtail guy.
Just always end up coming back home,
Yeah.
But this thing's pretty fun. I think hardtails are pretty fun. Riding a full suspension was interesting, but I don't know. There's something about how planted the rear feels on this, and you feel like you're getting everything that you're putting in. And I like the way a hardtail corners a lot more. I feel safer without any. The few things moving, the more like I can understand what's about to happen.
Okay. So along with your hardtail mountain bike or your Roscoe here that you ride a lot, I know another bike of yours is, I'll bring it up, is the fat bike.
Yes, bought a fat bike, and it's pretty fun. It's different.
Fun, right?
It's fun. It's different. I don't think you can ride it every day.
So it's odd for someone in Auburn, Alabama to see a fat bike when they're normally associated with snow,
winter riding and stuff.
maybe some sand, but we're riding them out at Chihuahua.
They're pretty fun to ride out there.
We've had some pretty fun rides out there on the fat bikes.
It can get kind of scary with a rigid fat bike, but the way you bounce over roots, pretty sweet. It's almost like full suspension, but like it's weird because the bike doesn't move as much, but you just feel the root go up into the tire and you go over it without like popping up.
And what kind of pressure? What pressure are you running when you're out there riding? Because that's a 4.5 tire.
4.5, and I don't know, probably like 17 in the front, maybe like 20 in the rear. Yeah. Enough to where it doesn't feel like it's gonna fall over.
Yeah, because if you go too low on those, it feels like it's gonna roll and put you in the ground. And what one of your other bikes that you ride is your gravel bike?
Yep, I have a Checkpoint, and that I probably have more miles on than anything, because on gravel you can just get out there and go. Just keep going. And
now with that bike, that's your gravel bike, your road bike, your packing bike when you want it to be? Pretty jack of all trades for you.
Yeah, I think that was probably the coolest thing about getting a gravel bike, is that you realize like you can go almost anywhere. You can't go up Norba, but you can go other places.
You can. You can underbike, overbike on that.
I can't go up Norba anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. If you have any questions about gravel routes or anything that Brandon and I were talking about today, feel free to call the shop to talk to me, or if Brandon's here at the time. We're going to be working on getting some line cards and some stuff available, but can definitely help you, get you connected with some of our go-to adventure routes. Thanks, Brandon, for coming in and taking the time to be our first guest on the Riders Spotlight. We are going to be doing one of these every month. There'll be a new rider every month. We have a lot of great riders in the Auburn-Opelika area, which we ride with, and it's going to be a great opportunity for us to get to know these riders a little bit better. Then when you're out riding, it's a great opportunity to talk about some of the stuff you learned. So thanks for tuning in.
Hit the blooper reel as soon as you go talk. I'm just going to like...
All right, let me ask you a question. Am I looking at the camera? Am I looking at him? Am I looking at you?
Why do you ride a bike?
I enjoy it. Oh, you're asking, am I supposed to ask him, or are you asking me?
You want me to ask him? Are you recording right now?
Yeah.
Great.
All right, what was the question?
I don't even know if I can ride a bike on this one. It's too scary.
We're losing them. You're perfectly fine.
I worked real hard today. I'm just tired. I keep thinking these are my sunglasses too. I'm used to putting something there. I'll put my sunglasses down.
Because you can say, this is my Roscoe, but I also have a gravel bike.
I don't want to talk about all the bikes.
You don't have to talk about